Hey guys, it's Eshani, aka Total Makeup Junkie 101, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be doing a full review and swatch video on the new Jaclyn Hill Morphe palette. This palette has been the most hyped up product in the makeup world recently, and so many of you guys asked me if I could come on here and do a full review for you guys. Now, as with all of my videos, today you're going to see a full unbiased, honest review on this product. I will be breaking it down for you guys, letting you guys know if I honestly think this product is worth the hype. The reason I did want to emphasize the honesty thing is because I feel like a lot of you guys might be new to my channel and may not know that I do a lot of review videos, but I give a no BS review. I don't hype products up unnecessarily. I genuinely am not fazed by collaborations. Like, I don't care that this is the Jaclyn Hill Morphe palette. I'm gonna review this palette as if it was just the Morphe 35J palette. Just as if this was any random makeup palette without a famous person's name on it. But with that being said, that's not to discredit Jaclyn and the effort that she put into creating this for us. I'm sure there was a lot of thought that went into the creation of this palette, so I definitely, wanted to point that out. Now, before we jump into my actual review of the palette itself, there were a couple of random things I wanted to mention first. So first off, if you're not aware, all of Morphe palettes are made in China. A lot of Morphe palettes are actually privately labeled from another company, so they're not even really custom made Morphe palettes. And this palette is no different because it is made in China and it's not a new formula. That was something that I was a little confused by because I did watch Jaclyn's introduction to this palette video, and it really came across that she custom created the formula to this palette. At least that's the way that I understood it, just based on what she was saying. But when I compare the ingredients to this palette next to other Morphe palettes that are already available, the ingredients are identical. These square Morphe palettes right here have the exact same ingredient list in the exact same order as this palette. The only difference is that this palette has kaolin in it, which is a type of clay, but other than that, the ingredients are identical. So I don't know if it was just me, but I felt a little misled by that. I did want to say, speaking of the ingredients, that there are no parabens in this formula, and there's also no mineral oil. The number one ingredient in here is talc, followed by mica, kaolin, and then dimethicone. Dimethicone is the ingredient in here that makes these shadows super smooth and silky. Okay, but let's not get too ahead of ourselves. First off, let's go ahead and talk about the packaging. It comes in a really pretty sleek white packaging. Jaclyn Hill and Morphe is in this mirrored silver. The back of the palette does say Morphe times Jaclyn Hill, and then it has JH all over. I will say that this white packaging, while it does look sleek and I love the look of white packaging, this is not a forgiving texture, in the sense that if you get any makeup, powder, cream, anything on here, it is going to stick and it is not going to come off. It's not glossy, nor does it have a rubberized feel. It just genuinely feels like white cardboard. For example, my lipstick packaging is also white. In case you guys didn't know, I do have my own makeup line called Rani Cosmetics. We have 6 lipsticks that come in this beautiful packaging, and you can see that the top is white, but I had them put this UV coat on it so that if you were to get lipstick all over the white, let me show this to you, you'll actually be able to wipe it off and it's not going to stain your packaging at all. Obviously, I paid a little bit more for that so that you guys can have beautiful white makeup packaging and have it not look nasty and gross and dirty, but that's just an example. And one final bit of self-promotion, this is also the lipstick I'm wearing on my lips right now, the Rani Cosmetics lipstick in Lussie, which I'm obsessed with. It's this beautiful red orange with a gold shimmer, perfect for the summertime. Okay, we're putting that down now. Back to the palette. This palette retails for $38. You can get it directly off the Morphe website, or before in the Morphe store in Burbank, California. At this time, I know they are sold out online, but I do know they will be restocking. I actually purchased my palette directly from the Morphe store on launch day, and let me just tell you guys, the line was crazy. I stood in line for 3 hours in the crazy heat to get my hands on this. However, I did think it was worth it because I actually met Jaclyn and she signed my palette for me. Jaclyn is so sweet. She was super friendly, very bubbly, just the way she comes across in her videos. Just because it has Jaclyn's name on it doesn't mean that I'm going to be giving this review any special treatment. If anything, I might be just a little bit more critical because we all know that Jaclyn Hill is super talented and she knows her makeup. So if anything, I expect pure perfection out of this palette. So here's an up close look at all of the colors you're getting in the Morphe Jaclyn Hill palette. You can see it's a really beautiful palette. For the most part, there's a lot of neutrals, a lot of warm neutrals, which I know Jaclyn really loves herself, with just a couple of pops of color in this corner. One thing I did want to say, which Jaclyn mentioned in her introduction video, is that every single one of these colors was pressed specifically for the color and the pigment that it was. And Jaclyn really made it seem like it was something very unique, something that people haven't been doing. And I'm here to tell you that that's pretty common practice in the makeup world. You definitely want to press every eyeshadow differently and at a different strength depending on the color and the texture and the pigmentation, like I was saying. But despite all of that, my overall thoughts on this palette is that I really like it. I think it's a really good palette. I think overall, I love the color selection. It basically looks like the 35O palette with some blues, teals, and a purple thrown in. You're either gonna love it or you're gonna hate it. You're either gonna buy it because you want it because of the hype, or you're just not going to be interested. And no matter which way you go, I don't think you'll be disappointed. If you were to buy this because you love Jaclyn, or you just love the color selection, or you're falling into the hype, I really think you'll like the palette. But if you happen to miss out, or you're not that interested, you feel like you have dupes in your current collection, you probably do, and I definitely wouldn't say this is like the best palette I've ever tried or anything like that. Now, with all of that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into swatches of this entire palette so you can see how it performs on my skin. Just to let you guys know, these are one swipe finger swatches over no primer on my arm. I also believe all of these colors do have names, but they're not written on the palette itself. They're not on the back. They're not even on the box. So I find that a little disappointing. I mean, why would you go through the effort of naming 35 eyeshadows and then not put the names anywhere for us to see? That's a little strange to me. But anyways, this is the top row in the palette. You can see you're getting a lot of nice light colors, some medium matte transition colors, and some nice foiled colors at the end. Here's the second row in the palette. Again, you're getting a bunch of really beautiful transition colors, a really nice matte orange, and then a couple of foiled colors at the end. Here's the third row in the palette. Again, beautiful foils, and then some more kind of medium dark matte colors, and that burgundy matte color is absolutely stunning. Here's the fourth row in the palette. You can see we have a couple of purples in the beginning, and then we have some nice foiled taupey type colors, and then some more mattes at the end. And here's the fifth and final row in the palette. You can see you're getting a couple of teals in the beginning, and then you get some kind of greenish emeraldy type colors, and then some nice dark matte colors to use as liners. My overall thoughts on the color selection is that it's really beautiful. You are getting so many great matte transition colors. You're also getting some amazing foiled lid colors in here. There is one thing I will say this palette is missing, and that is a matte light highlight color. For some reason, the two light colors in the palette are both shimmery. That kind of throws me off a little bit because with 35 colors to pick from, I would have loved to see a light matte brow bone highlight shade. Now, I will say that Not a single one of the individual colors is super, super unique. That's nothing against the palette as a whole. It's just to say that if you were to miss out on this palette, I'm sure that you have similar shades in your current collection. Now let's move into discussing the formula of the shades in here. So there are two specific formulas that I can point out in this palette. There's a matte or a foiled. The mattes are very, very creamy, super, super blendable. I will say the pigmentation varies depending on the shade. For some reason, like the orange, the burgundy, I keep pointing to these two because they are two of the best shades in this entire palette. They are one swipe pigmented. Some of these lighter shades over here did need to be built up a little bit to get the color intensity. On the whole, the mattes are really beautiful. They are quite powdery, but like I said, that does make them very blendable. Then in terms of the foiled shadows. Now overall, I have to say the foils are beautiful, but they are a little bit more difficult to work with. You can only use them with specific brushes, like a stiff, flat brush could work with them, but to be perfectly honest, the best way to apply the foils, in my opinion, is just using your finger. Now, I have press-on nails at the moment. Yeah, these are just press-ons that I pressed on about a week ago, but with these long nails, it does make it a little bit difficult to pick it up with your finger and kind of apply it. So I actually had to use a brush today to do the look that I have on. I actually have this shadow all over my lids today, and as long as I kind of like dug my brush in and tapped off the excess and pat it on, I was able to get the pigmentation to transfer. It wasn't one swipe pigmented the way it would be if you used your fingers. I really wouldn't say there are any major duds in this palette. Overall, I do think this palette performs just as well as pretty much any other Morphe palette. I've always said that Morphe shadows are really good for the price. Are they the best shadows you're ever gonna use? Definitely not. But for $38, you're getting 35 shadows, which comes out to about $1.09 per shadow. It's definitely not the cheapest Morphe palette out there, but I mean, it has Jaclyn Hill's name on it, and you're definitely paying for that name. And finally, let's go ahead and do the price per gram breakdown. So in this palette, you are getting 35 pans of shadow. In each of these pans, you're getting 1.6 grams, which means that you're getting 56.2 grams of product total. That means that you're paying 68 cents per gram for this palette, which is very, very affordable. Anything under $1 a gram is a great deal. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say on the Morphe Jaclyn Hill palette. I think it's a great palette for what it is, but it's not a unique palette in terms of the color selection. So either way, that is pretty much everything I have to say in today's video. In case you guys didn't know yet, I did start my own makeup line called Rani Cosmetics. We have 6 lipsticks, which you can shop through that link up there. I will also go ahead and put a subscribe link to my channel right down there for you. But that is everything. Thank you guys so, so much for watching, supporting, and subscribing. I really appreciate it. And I will talk to you guys in my next video on Monday. I'll see you then. Bye.